YouTube, what is up? We are back. It is NFL free agency. A few different teams, quarterbacks I want to talk about in this video. It's that time of the year where, the best we can do as far as content, things to talk about is NFL free agency, NFL draft, because we know the offseason really just sucks. We have basketball, we have hockey. It's better than nothing, but none of it compares to football. Once or twice a month, we get a good UFC fight or a decent card. That's about it. Football season, when it comes, it's really quick, comes and goes, and then you wait, and the wait for the next season feels like eternity. That's just how it goes. But in the meantime, I will give my thoughts on a few of the moves that we've seen so far in this free agency. I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Where's he going to go? And by the time I post this video, maybe he's already somewhere, so that would kind of suck for this video, but just giving you an idea in case I give speculative thoughts and now he signed somewhere, it's going to sound dumb. Let's talk about where he goes. Justin Fields signs with the Jets. Is that a good move for the Jets? Dumb for the Steelers? We'll talk about that. Russell Wilson, what's the deal with him? Is he going to stay in Pittsburgh? Is he going to go somewhere else? What's going to happen there? Geno Smith, that was a big move. Geno Smith to the Raiders under Pete Carroll, Tom Brady. They're, changing their identity of that team already making big moves. And the Vikings and the Seahawks. The Vikings, Sam Darnold, who had a good year. Now he's on Seattle. They replace him for Geno Smith. Is all these good or bad moves? Let's get into it one by one here. I like to start off what I thought was the biggest move was for the Raiders, the lousy Raiders, the lowly Raiders that can never seem to do anything right. They signed Max Crosby to a big deal. I have my thoughts. I really like Max Crosby as a person, as a player, all that stuff. Just philosophy-wise on how to build a team, I don't love the idea of giving a defensive end like the biggest money possible. Just think logically, how many teams that dominate, win Super Bowls have like a big-time edge rusher. It's usually not like the biggest needle mover. I get it. It's and I know I'm supposed to be talking about the quarterback here, but I just want to touch on this for a second. You look at the best edge rushers in the league. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Hawkinson. Hawkinson's kind of depends on the year, but TJ Watt, Myles Garrett have kind of been the top ones. Micah Parsons. You haven't seen the massive success there. I'm more so, and look, I could be wrong on this. This is just my personal philosophy. I think it's more valuable to have a Chris Jones and an Aaron Donald, somebody up the middle, and then you kind of just have fast guys containing the quarterback if they get out of the pocket. You kind of saw that in the Super Bowl this year with the Eagles. You got the big dogs coming up the middle, the Jalen Carters. You had Milton Williams, I believe his name is. They had a lot of good pressure from the inside, and then they had decent speed on the outside when Mahomes tried to scramble. That's just my 2 cents. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't love the idea of locking up. It hasn't moved the needle thus far, but they also have had no offense, so I can get both sides of the argument. That's just my opinion. But anyways, enough talking about that. The Raiders get Geno Smith. I think this is a huge move. I think it's a great move for Pete Carroll, Tom Brady, all of them. And I know it just depends on the team, right? It's for the Raiders, right? It's a great move for the Raiders because they're a bottom of the barrel team almost every year. So for Seattle, they were looking at it like, we're tired of being middle of the road. Maybe we make a wild card spot. Maybe we don't. That's kind of where the Seahawks were ending up year after year. With the Raiders, it's like, how can we not embarrass ourselves? And this takes you out of that embarrassment bottom of the barrel league and should put you, in my opinion, middle of the package. They do play in a really tough division, but I think Geno Smith is a very reliable option. I do think he can get you to that 50-50 coin flip of whether or not you make the playoffs or not, which is a way better spot for the Raiders. The Seahawks, the way they probably are looking at this, I forget the exact numbers Geno's getting, Sam's getting, but I believe Sam was getting significantly less money. I think Sam's getting around 30-something a year, but I think that's less than what Geno was getting. So I think the Seahawks looked at it like, okay, we're going to save some money here at quarterback and get what they think is probably equal or better to Geno and Sam Darnold. That's probably how they're looking at it. Here's the thing. When it comes to should you kept Geno, gone with Sam Darnold, is Geno going to be good with the Raiders? I do think Geno's going to be very similar, same as he was with Seattle because he's proven himself now. Geno Smith, he had Shane Waldron, when he got the starting job in Seattle. Shane Waldron was his OC for 2 years. And then last year he had a new OC under a new coach, and he still did very similar to how well he did his first 2 years with Shane Waldron. So that's proved to me with two different coordinators and coaches that he was consistent either way. There wasn't really a major change either direction. However, with Sam Darnold, I think it's a lot more risky because Sam Darnold has been horrific his whole career under a bunch of different coaches, coordinators, yada, yada, yada. And he finally got one last year in O'Connell. That is a very offensive-friendly head coach. And, he's made a lot of quarterbacks that were kind of mid look good. Kirk Cousins, even the guys that stepped up when Cousins got hurt last year, they were still decent. He's just a very good offensive coach, and Sam Darnold had his best year in that system with crazy weapons: Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, really good O-line. So it was a great situation for Sam. I'm not saying he will or won't succeed in Seattle. It's not really what I do. We got to see some data on it before we can say, okay, this is going to work or it's not going to work. But if I was, a GM or in these shoes, I'd say it's just riskier. I'm not saying it's going to be good or bad. I think it's just a lot riskier. And Geno Smith, in my opinion, is a lot safer because we've seen him with different coordinators in the recent years, and he's been same kind of production. Sam Darnold, one good year under an unbelievable system. Take him out of that system. Is he going to go back to his old ways? We saw how he ended the year last 2 games, but overall the season was solid. We'll see what happens. And then we get into kind of the Pittsburgh Steelers tree. Is Aaron Rodgers going to go there? Russell Wilson, what's the deal? Justin Fields. So they get rid of Justin Fields. And here's my takeaway. You guys know it. I'm the #1 Mike Tomlin hater. I got nothing against him as a person. I just think he's a horrific decision maker as a coach. I'm sure if anybody sees this video, some of you guys will get triggered by it because everybody loves Mike Tomlin. But I say it almost every video at this point. He's very low IQ when it comes to making good decisions. He's playing Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, down 14-0, 4th and inches. He's punting the ball, 4th and 1, another punt. Like, the guy doesn't get it. He doesn't understand the little things. You should have a system in place to get easy, high probability quarterback sneaks, tush pushes. You got to adapt with what's working in the league instead of punting it, and you automatically lose the game for your team. Your team doesn't even get a chance to play. With that being said, here he goes again. I don't think any of these options are great. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. I think Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are shit, if I'm being honest. They're pretty shit at this point in their career. And they're old. They're old. I mean, if you don't want to say they're shit, you could say they're average, but that's the highest rating I think you can give them. But aside from that, they're old, and they're maybe, Aaron Rodgers is probably a 1 to 2 year guy, max. Maybe, I'd be surprised if it's 2 at this point. He's looking pretty bad. And Russell Wilson, same thing. How much time does he have left? It's not like he's getting better every year. Ever since the Denver days, he's been pretty bad. He doesn't move like he once did. Aaron Rodgers, he can't move at all. If it's not a perfect pocket and he has to scramble a little bit, it looks pretty rough. That was my takeaway last year. Neither of those guys are options that I would really want. And now we go to Justin Fields. Now, I'm not saying Justin Fields is better than them. I'm not saying he's significantly better than them. I'm not saying anything. I could say he's around the same kind of level as them right now. But the thing is, I think he has a lot more upside. Justin Fields is way younger than these guys. And he had his best year last year. So you're getting a guy coming off his best year, whereas you're getting, if you go the Rodgers-Wilson route, you got 2 guys that are coming off some of their worst years. And especially Rodgers coming off a year where he missed the whole year off of a serious injury. And these guys are typically at this age are only going to get worse every year. So I don't love the projected potential with those two. Whereas with Justin Fields, you're like, okay, I'm not saying he played great, but had his best year. Maybe he could build off this and start to find his groove and get even better. And if we hit on him, we got a guy for the cheap that's still young, and we can still put people around him. And the other, icing on the cake where I think Justin Fields is more valuable than Rodgers and Wilson at this point in his careers, he could actually move. Look, Russ can move a little bit, but Rodgers can't move at all. And Fields is actually very, very athletic. And it totally makes the defense respect different things. I never thought they should have gone away from him last year. I know Tomlin went to Russ, and he thought he was a genius for a few weeks. And then, the Steelers were a team where I was like, I kept saying it, this thing's going to collapse. This is a phony team when it comes to being a real contender like people thought they were. And look what happened. They lost how many games in a row to end the season? I think they lost 3 in a row and then lost the playoff game. I think they lost 4. Russell Wilson, he looked good the first few games, and then eventually came back down to life to who he really is at this stage in his career. Justin Fields, I think he's got a lot more juice, a lot more athletic, and, let him develop every year as a passer, and I just think there's a lot more upside with him. I would have rolled the dice with Justin in his youth, and, he's only getting $20 million a year. So I think the Jets got a great deal there. For the limited options that are available, I think this is one of the better upside ones. Small contract, not a long commitment. I think it was a 2-year deal. And, they I think have the most upside with their selection. Because we know this quarterback draft is very wonky. It's very up in the air. I don't feel great about any of these quarterbacks, and I know, unless I'm getting paid to be an NFL scout or run a team, I'm not watching all the film on every single guy, every single snap they have. So I think it's really hard to give a great opinion on it. But just from what games I did watch that these guys were in, not a ton stuck out to me as like these guys are amazing. And I've said it before. I think Jalen Milroe is that guy that has like so much upside with his athleticism, his freakish potential. But at the same time, I don't really trust his brain. I don't like his footwork. So it's like, even the guys I like, there's things that there's no Joe Burrows in this draft where you're like, oh, can't find a flaw. It's not that kind of draft, in my opinion. And just a final thought, guys, of one last interesting possibility. I don't know if it'll happen, but, and I don't think it's by choice. I think it's been by coincidence, really. Aaron Rodgers always following Brett Favre's footsteps, going, being drafted to the same team, then going to the Jets. And I do think the Vikings are a little bit interesting because the Vikings had a really good year aside from, how they ended. And are they just going to put all their faith in a rookie quarterback that's never played? Or, you've already seen them making some moves at, I think they got Zach Allen. I could be messing this up, but I believe they got a pretty good defensive lineman. And I want to say they added was it Will Fries? I think they added another guy in their O-line. I think they added a couple solid pieces. So are they kind of saying, let's keep the budget small at quarterback. We could probably get Aaron Rodgers for the low. And if there's any guy we've seen that can revive quarterbacks that haven't been playing well, it's Minnesota's head coach. He seems to just have the sauce for quarterbacks. Maybe he wants Aaron Rodgers to help McCarthy learn for a year. That I could see that actually happening. That, now that I'm saying it out loud, that would not shock me. I think that would be very interesting. So that's the one kind of, everyone's focused on the Steelers or the Giants. Forget the Giants. The Giants are a shit show. Fucking loser GM. Anyways, Vikings are very interesting. McCarthy looked kind of good in the preseason, but what are we doing? We're judging off a preseason game. He's never played a snap of real football in the NFL, so I do think there's a chance that they try to bring Aaron in there and have McCarthy learn behind him for a year. So that would be interesting. Rodgers with Justin Jefferson and those weapons, reunites with his old buddy Aaron Jones. Is Aaron Jones still there? I'm not gonna lie, I haven't looked at every little detail. I'm more so focused on the quarterbacks and the big moves, but I think Aaron Jones is still there. If he's still there, that would be a reunion for those two. I know Aaron really likes him. So we'll see, guys. That's my overall thoughts on the best and worst moves that these teams have made, and we'll see how it plays out. I do think the Raiders are going to be a lot better next year, and they're in a really tough division, but I do think the Geno move gives them a coin flip chance of making the playoffs. Maybe less than a coin flip chance, but at least like a third, at least, but a 35-ish% chance, I think. So that's it, guys. We'll see what's next. Maybe more free agency stuff. Maybe our next video will be after the draft. And we'll just keep breaking down whatever the offseason gives us. It's not as fun as the regular season where we have real things to talk about, but at least we can still talk a little bit about all the speculation of what's going on and how these moves will impact these teams. All right, guys, have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.